And it's not the Five Stack. It's actually just Narativ Live. But of course, the Five Stack is coming up at 3 p.m. with Dean Blundell. But right now, I'm very excited to have Eddie Aragon here. Eddie, of course, the Rock of Talk, AM 1600 Kiva, Albuquerque. That's his radio station. But he's also one of the biggest experts on everything Epstein out of New Mexico. And just a couple of days ago, I posted an article of our investigation into what those microwave towers that many people had been speaking about for many, many years really were doing above Jeffrey Epstein's ranch over at the Sandia mountain range. The federal licenses are about to be renewed as of July, I believe, just 3 weeks from now. We'll see if the new owners renew those licenses. But of course, Epstein has been dead since 2019. And people are asking why he needed these microwave towers that were beaming what we can now reveal was high-speed internet, basically to the ranch and back. Now, there's been lots of speculation over the years that this is some spy-grade, military-grade encryption going on here. It actually isn't that. It's stuff you could buy off the shelf, although it's an expensive shelf. It's a custom-fitted microwave that back then allowed you to have high-speed internet arrive in your ranch or wherever it is you were in a remote location and back. And we know all of this because we were able to find this document in the Epstein files. I'll zoom in a little bit here so we can all see it. And the details aren't really that important, except that there's $41,131 that goes from a Deutsche Bank account to a company called Future Technologies Venture, which is a company in Texas that does this kind of work. They put in these microwave towers and they allow high-speed internet using Dragon Wave to reach remote locations. That's the file that we've all been looking for because it finally confirms for us what we've been asking for a long time. What is really going on at Zorro Ranch and why did he need these microwave towers? Now, Eddie, you've been around that part of the world for a long time. Does this confirm what other people have speculated or does it help in any way and clarify what those things were doing, those microwave licenses were doing?
So first off, great work, Zev. Thanks for staying on this. I think not only is the people who are researching the Epstein community, I think, indebted to you, but also I think, the victims and all the rest of the people who are trying to uncover what's happening. So kudos to you for staying on top of this and putting all of that together. I think it's fine work. To give my input on this in terms of what the microwave towers likely were and are and have been is obviously a high-speed communications tower because fiber wasn't out there. There wasn't the ability to roll out Elon Musk's sky. By the way, I just made a phone call at 30,000 feet.
You did?
Elon Musk.
Starlink.
Starlink, yeah, it was on a United flight and it was just absolutely amazing. So, the technology is there. Back when they installed this, 2014, 2015, there's a couple of things that really jump out at me is the timing of this. And one is, as you and I have gone over and over again about when the Jericho Labyrinth was established and when that was put into place, this correlates, I think, dovetails nicely with, that timeline. So obviously, there's more than just creating a Jericho Labyrinth on top. I really think it really bolsters that position of the lab being underneath, that there was a need for this type of communications, what it was used for, what was needed. That is anyone's guess.
It's just underline that, if I could just interrupt you for 1 second here. Sure. We're talking about a gigabyte of data. That's a lot of data. Mostly you'd need that for video or really high volume content. It's not the kind of thing that you would need for your average email or your average horse ranch. The fact that they went to the need to install multiple microwave towers, multiple licenses with relays on the ground, there were 3 relays on the ground, I'll show you the map in just a second, indicates that they really needed a very reliable high-speed data connection that would require a lot of data to be transferred back and forth. So when I first saw that this was commercial grade, I thought maybe this implies that it's not a military or spy operation. On the other hand, it's a gigabyte worth of data that is being transferred on a constant basis in 2 directions over microwave, which is fairly secure. That does lend itself to sort of secrecy and everything else that you might need if you were going to try and move a lot of data off the grid. That's exactly how you would do it.
So yeah, let me kind of go at it this for a few minutes, if you don't mind, because I think this would be some insightful things, because we have to kind of take into account everything. First off, I mean, I think everybody needs to take a step back from things and being a little bit careful about going too hard into it and then trying to get what's called confirmation bias. I think a lot of
Mm,
people sold themselves a lot of things based upon speculation
mm,
without doing the work. Zev, you have done the work on this, and that's important. It's like a car, like a Ferrari, like a, I don't know, but figure out where you got a car. You're always going to be buying more than what you need currently, or you're going to get more than what you like. I had fiber installed on my radio station. I never
mm.
needed. It's just kind of what you do because you plan for the future. So I think it's indicative of their plans going forward of what they were going to need and the inception point, knowing someone who owns a radio station, invests in technology, you're going to want to get as much as you can right at the very beginning so you don't have
Right.
them hodgepodgey kind of come back in. So, at that point, I would just be careful about going a little bit too far about how much information was transferred. With that in mind, I'm also going to speak to the other side of that, which I think is very important, which is the fact that no files have ever been turned up. These aren't just VHS tapes, DVD tapes. There has to be a place and a reason to relay all of that blackmail information over there. Now, one of the people who worked at the ranch and who was there on the day that Jeffrey Epstein died was there emptying out, right? Emptying out in a
Hmm.
Winnebago everything out of Epstein's ranch at that time. So and we certainly know that Epstein was alive after his presumed death. We know of his player profiles. We know of his, where else he's
Some
been.
people say that. I mean, we don't
Yeah,
know for
yeah.
sure. We don't want to say
No,
that
we
we know for
don't.
sure.
But no, but I just want to qualify this because I
Mm.
think it's important to understand that this is a larger operation, much bigger than just
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein. And if you have that type of information, where does it need to go? Why does it need to go someplace? And how are you going to get that out? Are you going to haul it in a Winnebago and you're going to stick it in
Hmm.
self storage containers? Well, sure, if you're doing that previous to 2012. But after 2012, when you can transfer this type of data over large internet backbone, and I am, MCSE, CNE, like I have a bunch of certifications in the late 90s, early 2000s. You're going to need those Cisco routers. You're going to need that throughput so you can send that information other places, Dev. And
Right.
that, to your point, is exactly right. And you need to be doing it as quickly as possible to open and shut the spigot, right? So you have it
Hmm.
open, you have it shut, open, shut. You need it when you need it, and that's why you need it. And let's not forget the infrastructure installations, not to mention the down payments on this stuff. You're looking at a Deutsche Bank form here. I can't read because my eyes are a little. I'm an older guy. Tell me what the numbers are on those. Say that what they are slowly to
But
me.
I can't read that either because it's. But I can tell you that it
Okay.
was $41,000.
Okay, good.
That
But
was.
that's good enough. The
Yeah.
fact of the matter is it's through Deutsche Bank, it's through the Rothschilds, it's definitely with a quote unquote agency that's above and beyond him for the necessary needs to go ahead and control people who are in decision making power. And when
Mm.
you have blackmail video, when you have blackmail audio, when you have all these things, you need to move it fast to other places. And you said it's going both ways. Did you
Two
not say
ways,
that?
which I thought was really interesting. They could have had one way and they could have just alternated, but they really wanted something that was both secure and redundant as well, because it had 5 different licenses. You only need that
So
if you're going to
this
do
is
something.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, like you and I are on live. Let's say
Mm.
this throughput allows us to do this. I have a good internet connection. You have a good internet connection. Was there some live quote unquote events transmitted to
Well,
a
that's a very good point.
controlled group of people? We've seen this in movies, right? They've literally put it where you can watch, you can pick who you want, and then all of a sudden, the guy who's buying the woman may have come in. Just a thought, because
No,
I've
it's a
seen
good
that
thought. I'll tell you
before.
why it's a good thought. He built the exact same facility in St. James, the island that he had in the British Virgin Islands. So, in the US
Okay.
Virgin Islands, sorry. So, what you've got here is a duplicate system that he could monitor potentially, if you wanted to, all his properties at one time. Now, why would you need that? You may only need that if you were really concerned about blackmail or really concerned about security.
Yeah,
But
right. Right.
Blackmail is a big piece of what we now know was his thing, as we found out from Bill Gates to the transcript that just came out earlier on today. Now, I want to show you something because this is interesting. This is the location of all these repeaters. I'm going to try.
Ooh.
Let's see if I can zoom in a
Ooh.
little bit here.
Okay. Those are
So,
pricey.
yeah, I mean, what we're looking
The
at here
relays.
is,
And
yes, they were
extending for your audience, that would be
yeah.
the equivalent of you extending your router around your large house.
Yeah, so they built not only one reception so this is Sandia Crest. This is where the microwave was, right at the top of Sandia Crest, right?
Yeah, I know.
And
That's
it was
where my station was that got taken out. Yep.
well, then, maybe it's related. The fiber came in here. The high speed internet came in here, and then to get to the ranch house themselves, they needed a microwave tower. So they were beaming the signal down and back up, and they were doing that to these two locations. So one location, which will come up in a second, hopefully, is this big tower. And I'm sorry, there's a big thing happening in front of here. That is a big tower on the ranch, and you can see the location there. It's hard to see on some of these satellite images, but it's where the main transmission was, or the receiving tower was for the microwave and the high-speed internet. And then, so they had one at the main house, which was at Zorro Ranch, and then they had one at this big tower ranch. So they had a couple of places that they were doing retransmitting from. Plus, I think there was a third one, although I can't really identify exactly where that was. This brine pond comes into it as well in 2016, because in 2016, they decided to decommission a brine pond. Now, I don't know how that really fits into ranches or why people have brine ponds, but nevertheless, this was something they had to decommission legally. Now, you'll remember, as you just pointed out, that we were saying that the underground facility that was built under Zorro, we think was built around 2014 to 2016 in that zone. At the same time, they're decommissioning this brine pond and installing these microwaves. That's all a lot of activity for one ranch that is just doing horses, And what's going on in this brine ranch is this would have been a pond that was filled in. Now, why that's significant in this case is that this is 1.5 miles away from the main house, 1.5 miles away from the potential underground lab that's here under the labyrinth. And what I'm wondering, and it's a theory, was we've talked about how water needed to be pumped into the facility, how AC, how potential noxious fumes might have had to come out of underground, so they might have been pushed out of that, through various holes that they had on the ground or other ways of getting the ventilation right. So I'm wondering if the brine pond happening at exactly the same time as the build of what we think was the underground lab or underground facility, and these microwave towers all arriving at the same time. That to me looks, well, much more than coincidence. And then Jeffrey Epstein makes a huge point of saying no one should come to do any work there until September 2016. So he's personally overseeing the timeline of when everything is getting installed and telling people not to show up until a certain time. It all smells very fishy to me. I mean, clearly there's something here.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's clear that Jeffrey Epstein's a fuck up. The people who were sponsoring his operation, getting him his stuff, like he doesn't know how to install this stuff. He doesn't know what he's doing. This speaks to something larger behind him, but he did know how to sort of entrench and blackmail people and get them in. But I think it's for far more beyond that, Zev. I think you would agree with me, given the construction of the brine pond, and then the lab that's underneath there that you and I have been talking about, I think is critical to speaking to their future plans. So Epstein fucked up because essentially he wasn't able to execute and leverage all of this technology and all of these things that he had rolled out there. So
we don't know. We really don't know what was going on underneath the ground. We don't know.
Okay, we don't know, but I think we know. You and I know better than most people, and I think given what we've been talking about for how long we've been talking about it is better than any assessment. Now, here's what I will say: his friendship with Peter Thiel, who's now moved to Argentina, who's wanting to do like offshore data stuff, who's creating his own like secret society, his own hierarchical. I mean, this guy's really. I mean, you think of what Zuckerberg did with Facebook back in the aughts, and what he is doing now, and then you think about, okay, we had this relationship. Was this for an extinction level event? Was this underground facility based upon something where eventually they don't need people anymore? They already knew that they were disposables, and what they were going to do, essentially is, I think what's the guy that's OpenAI, Sam
Altman.
Yeah, Sam Altman. He's talking about creating billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies with 10, 12 people. These people had no use for other people other than to use other people. So with all that being said, was that underground facility that's there? with the relays and the microwave relays? Was this something that they were building for the next 30 years, for the next 50 years, for the next 100 years? In addition to being at the near term utilitarian, send us all the data and the blackmail people so we know who to blackmail and what we have on them, et cetera, et cetera. It's also being used as a lab, as I think it probably has
a crypto lab, and also you had all these nuclear scientists from Santa Fe and Los Alamos there on a regular basis. We don't know what they were doing, but something was happening there. That's not just a horse ranch.
I think you're wrong when it says was. I think something is.